So, a lot of things are happening in the Middle East, a lot of things are changing, and I will try to cover the important topics here. In the end, we know who is going to win the battle, and we know who is going to be victorious. Hint, it's not going to be the Islamic regime. These days we are seeing the massive funeral of the arch terrorist Qassem Soleimani in the streets of Iran. You have seen tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people mourning his death. Now, don't be fooled. This is an Iranian propaganda to, make you believe that the entire nation of Iran is mourning the death of Soleimani. But in reality, the real feeling of the ordinary Iranian people is actually happening inside their homes. While you see hundreds of Iranians, tens of thousands of Iranians outside in the streets, there are millions of Iranian people inside their homes rejoicing and dancing. And obviously, they can't reveal their faces, they can't say that in public because they will risk their lives. But most of the Iranian people, the ordinary Iranian people, are supportive of this assassination. And Iran is offering a bounty of $80 million for Donald Trump's head. Yeah, they are offering $80 million for Donald Trump's head. And just for you to get an understanding, in 2003, the US offered a bounty of $25 million for Saddam Hussein's head. So they are offering $80 million. They must hate President Trump for what he did to them. So that's just it. And the Iranian regime declared days of mourning and the funeral ceremony, while they won't let Iranian people mourn their beloved ones who were massacred by the Islamic regime in the recent protests. So this is just hypocrisy. And you have to ask yourselves, what was Qassem Soleimani doing in Iraq anyways? Especially after Iran and former Iraqi Prime Minister Abadi announced that ISIS has been defeated. Iran has a very influential proxy in Iraq. They are trying to manipulate the politics in Iraq and control Iraq. Just like Hezbollah in Lebanon they are trying to do the same thing. That's why we have seen Lebanese people protesting against Iran, Iraqi people protesting against Iran. They want to get Iran out of their countries. They don't like Iran's involvement in their countries because all they do is terror. They don't do anything good. Iran is trying to dominate the Middle East. That's what they're all about these days because that's how they believe they will be able to destroy Israel. Obviously, that's not going to happen. And among those that came to the funeral was Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh. He spoke to the mourners and obviously he expressed solidarity with the Islamic regime, but he also said that on behalf of the Palestinian nation, they are thankful for Soleimani's support. And, seeing him alongside the leaders of the Islamic regime gives you a lot of understanding of who they are, who Hamas and the Islamic regime are. They are supported by a regime that slaughters their own people and dominating the Middle East. And, all they want is to destroy Israel. And Tehran also announced that they are abandoning the remaining limits of the nuclear deal. And, they gotta be joking because they never actually kept the nuclear deal. They actually kept advancing in secret their nuclear program. And actually, Israel exposed it in a daring Mossad operation that Prime Minister Netanyahu, exposed all the nuclear secret archive that they hid from the world. So President Trump also tweeted that Iran will never have a nuclear weapon, and Prime Minister Netanyahu also promised that. So we will have to see how this story develops. But the replacement of Soleimani, General Ismail Qani, said that Iran is ready for war and they are just waiting for approval of the Iranian president Rouhani. And several reports were saying that they are they put their bases on high alert and their missiles are on high alert. I don't know what that means, but it doesn't mean anything good. They are getting ready for a possible response. There is a lot of tension in the region, but let me remind you that Iran actually designated the US military as a terrorist organization in April of 2019. That's actually hilarious considering the fact that Iran is actually the one that is trying to destroy America and Israel. That's why they are trying to obtain nuclear weapon. Obviously, it's not for peaceful reasons. And they designated the US military as a terrorist organization. That's just, they have a good sense of humor, I have to say that. Okay, so we spoke about Iran. Let's now go to Lebanon's Hezbollah leader, Nasrallah. He said that President Trump has started a new era in the Middle East. And by that, he obviously tried to threaten President Trump and the West. But you know what? Yes, President Trump did start a new era in the Middle East, an era where decision makers, those that send terrorists to carry out terror attacks, will also be targeted, not just the average terrorist. Let's put it this way. And that's exactly what US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said, that from now on, decision makers will be targeted instead of proxies. I think that this is a great decision that will advance peace in the region instead of conflict. So Hezbollah's leader also said that President Trump doesn't respect the international law. And, that's absurd coming from the leader of a terror organization that he has innocent blood on his hands. He carried out several terror attacks, and he's telling President Trump that he doesn't respect the international law. So we are seeing how the Islamic regime using its proxies to try to manipulate you to think that they are the ones, they are the victim, and President Trump is the evil one. But do not be fooled. They are trying to manipulate you. What President Trump did was a good thing for the sake of the world. He made the world a better place. And Hezbollah's leader also called Shia militia to attack the US military, and he said that when the US will leave the region, they will be humiliated, defeated, and terrified, and they will take Israel with them. Now, President Trump has sent 3,500 US troops to the Middle East. They are now on the ground, and there are reports of more troops who are coming to the Middle East to defend US personnel and American interests. So we will have to see how this story develops. I surely hope that they will not get hurt. We have seen several rocket attacks on the Green Zone in Iraq. The Green Zone is where the US Embassy is located, but thankfully no US personnel were injured. We also saw several strikes on Iranian-backed militia. So it feels like the region is waking up, and the entire Arab world and the Iranian people are rising up against the Islamic regime because they are sick and tired of what the Islamic regime is doing here in the Middle East, because they are up for war. They are not up for peace. They are not trying to bring peace to the Middle East. So that's about the Iranian situation. Now I have to tell you that the American far left, and by that I mean Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Bernie Sanders, and more, should really be ashamed of themselves. Today, the US Senate Democrats urged President Trump to disclassify the reasons of why he eliminated Qassem Soleimani. It almost feels like they don't understand why would Trump assassinate an armed terrorist that planned to carry out attacks against US personnel. Their hate is for Trump is greater than their love for America. It's such a shame that they don't see America's interests first, they see their interests first. And I think that they should really be ashamed of themselves. I am for criticism all the way, but it doesn't feel like criticism at all. That's just pure hate. So a lot of things are happening in the Middle East. Your prayers are much needed and appreciated. You know, the Islamic regime is funding the Islamic Jihad, Hamas, the PMU and PMF in Iraq, the Houthis in Yemen, Hezbollah in Lebanon, and the Assad regime, and they all have promised to destroy Israel. Israel is a small country with approximately 9 million people, while Iran is a country of 80 million people. Why won't they just invest in their own people instead of investing in destroying this small country called Israel? Their hate for Israel is greater than their love for the Iranian people. And this is such a shame. That's why you are seeing Iranian people that are happy that the US assassinated Qassem Soleimani. Because the Islamic regime is the enemy of the people. They are not there to help them. They are not there to help the Iranian people. The world is a better place without Qassem Soleimani. We might expect to see an Iranian response because obviously Qassem Soleimani was a very high profile, not just a military commander, but really a leader in Iran. He was very close with Iran's supreme leader. So I just hope that no one will be killed on the good side of this battle. But in the long term, I think that President Trump did the right thing because he actually advanced peace, as I said. Because in order to advance peace in the Middle East, you first have to end terrorism. You can't make peace with terrorists because they don't want peace. They just want destruction and more terror and more hate. So in the long term, this step is going to bring peace closer. Although what we're seeing right now, the tension and the ongoing conflict, it looks different now, but I think that it is good for the long term. So thank you so much, and please pray for peace.